You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes. Hey there, welcome back to Zesty Ginger's podcast in the solo series with Megan, your host today, solo host today. So if you're jumping in now, you may want to go back. I rephrase, you definitely want to go back to the beginning of my story and this series because it goes in order and each part plays on the next. And I just want to thank you all for the responses, the requests, the shares, the overwhelming just appreciation for this series, because I know many of you know it's not always easy to share the super details of your life. And I have attempted to open up as much as possible so that you all understand that we're all a lot more alike than we think in this life journey together. And I've also been receiving many requests of how can we get more into all of these different topics? Like, how can we find a structure to actually help us? And we help women in a few different ways. So I just want to clarify that this is the work we do. Everything I've learned through my process, everything Dr. Alex has learned through her pain journey, her endometriosis journey, her infertility journey, my mold journey, this is now the structure and the 7-step structure that we teach with inside of our Health Transformation Accelerator. Whether you are someone who has physical symptoms going on, hormone imbalances going on, anxiety, depression, any physical symptoms, or whether this is someone who is moved into the category of optimizing, upgrading, up-leveling, and maybe you want to up-level in your business. We've found it's the same 7 steps, whether you're optimizing your health or whether you're optimizing your business or your relationship. So we take our structure and you can apply it to anything you wish. Our next group will be in September, in the end of September. That's the next group of the Health Transformation Accelerator. So we'll definitely come on over to the wait list if it's in between, since it has not yet opened yet. You can put your name on zestyginger.com/transform. Come check that out. And then for any of you out there who are wondering more about how all this has led into the tools that we use as practitioners and the tools that we use to help with subconscious reprogramming, which is coming, then also if you're any kind of practitioner or a coach, or you want to be a practitioner or a coach, we are now doing certification coaching trainings. You'll get 4 certifications by the end of that training. It is 1 week in person. We had our first one in May in Dallas, and we will be having our next one in October of 2022 in Dallas as well. Please reach out to us. We have a limited number of spots for that. We've handpicked people. We interviewed people for the first round and had the most amazing group of women. So please, please, please just send us an email, support@zestyginger.com. Reach out to us on the gram, all the places to find us. Okay, cool. So I want to get back into the series. And today's podcast is all going to be about another event that I went to. So each event and each stage and each book and each program that I've gone through as I'm navigating this journey of going from a person who felt totally betrayed, felt totally lost, embarrassed, ashamed, guilty, all these different things, into finding what is this actually about? What is this pattern? Because this was not the first time that this pattern had attracted into my life. So what was deeper under this? And each time I went to something else and searched for answers, I I found them. And that is what we've brought all together. So one of the things, another event my husband and I went to together. So this is what happened. We got to go to the Tony Robbins event. And I shared that in the previous episode, and we really discovered masculine and feminine. We were starting to speak the same language, and then we wanted to go a bit deeper, and we wanted to do that together. And so Dr. Joe Dispenza was someone I had been listening to for, I don't know, a really long time. Like, I've had his books on my shelf for years, and then during, I think it was before the pandemic, was when I really got into listening to his work and purchased his, he has a progressive and intensive workshop. So I had started to really listen over and over. So one of the amazing things that he's so good at is taking the scientific knowledge, taking research, taking physiology, the body, how it works, and explaining in detail all of these reasons why we are stuck in the habits we are in. Right? There are reasons why we continue to do things when we say we don't want to continue to do things. The reason why we get stuck in an identity that we don't want. And he explains it so clearly, and he explains the science too behind meditation, behind your pineal gland, behind going to the quantum field and what that even is, quantum physics, to the point that then you're excited to meditate. Anybody like, really, Megan? Because that's how I was. But you are like legit like, I cannot wait this door to another dimension. Like, you're ready, you're in it. And that's where I was by the time. In his events, they sell out super quickly. You have to hit purchase like within 10 minutes. Like, you have to be ready. Doors open at 1:00 on Saturday or whenever it is, and then you have to be ready to purchase. So my husband and I said, let's go together. There's one coming up. It was in Orlando, so it was in the US. And we're like, let's do it. So I had my credit card ready, and I hit purchase. We both got in. So here we go. This is in April of 2021. We went together. And it was super cool that we got to go together, because both my husband and I had some amazing experiences. And I think this has been really key into us just healing together and just really working through the different trauma that we both have had, or he has had, and he has induced for me. And in the process, when we got there, leading up to it, actually, I had been doing all of the daily, his intensive and his progressive course. So in order to go to the 7-day in-person, you have to have done that beforehand. And so I'm watching it every day. And he always talks about having a clear intention and an elevated emotion, right? So the clear intention is like, what do you want? You get into that elevated emotion in that state, and that is then drawing the thing back into you. And so I had made a pact to not get out of bed every day until I had a clear intention and elevated emotion. And let me tell you, when you are first attempting to rein in your thoughts, really be aware of what you think, how fast they come in, and how many you keep pulling in, it can be a little bit of a shocker. It's like, wow. I remember specifically one morning, I get up and I'm like, okay, clear intention, elevated emotion. And all I could do was jump to, I'd been woken up by the sound of the dishes in the kitchen. My husband was crashing around early in the morning, which is a huge pet peeve of mine. And I could not stop being so angry in my head, like the most ridiculous angry thoughts. And then I would be like, come back, Megan, clear attention, elevated emotion. And that one day specifically, it took me 2 whole hours to get back to a place where I was clear. And I did it. And I committed to this. And at the time, I had been waking up with lots of really fast thoughts and like chaos and fight or flight and like, oh my God, all this stuff had to happen. And I would have crazy dreams, and then that would play into the feeling. And so this whole getting up in the morning and actually feeling good for the day and not giving into the phone and not giving into just these thoughts, the fears that were just, it was just a feeling, that was huge for me. It took me a while. It took me weeks of just every day. And then I started to notice I was anchored into my bed to just open my eyes, look at the poster on my wall of my husband and I that says the Ho'oponopono. It's right here. It says, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I was able to anchor in immediately. And then I had my day. And this became faster and faster and faster. And it was so cool. So this was before I even got there. Now, once we get there, I didn't exactly know how this was going to go. And I didn't exactly know how actual, like, hands-on it was, because I love to learn, right? I love that knowledge. But his events are like, you're doing it. You're doing the meditation. You're going to the quantum field. You're getting up super, super freaking early in the morning to, like, have that optimum time for melatonin so that you can squeeze everything up into the pineal gland and, like, just explode it open so you head into another dimension, right? Like, this is just super fun stuff to me. And it was like quite the process. And so I heard Dr. Joe say at one point that for men, often for men, not always men, but this is common, is that they will have a hard time really opening their heart. They maybe were taught, societal wise, like, not to do that. That's not safe. Or, like, what does this even mean? And he's teaching you how to open your heart and this process. And he said, often what will happen is it won't be until we get to the coherence healing or the healing sessions when we're healing someone else. And then that's when these men are, like, feeling it. And this is exactly what happened to my husband. He'd been doing this stuff every day and doing great, battling with, the thoughts in his mind a lot. And then when we got to the healing day where we were actually each had a picture of someone who was in need, and we were learning how to do coherence healing from a distance, right? Sending energy through the quantum field. Yes, it's a real thing. It's some crazy results. And I personally know someone who was healed in this way. And my husband's doing the practice, sending the energy, and he felt so much love in his heart opening, and for this person he didn't know, and it was just, like, literally flowing through him, overwhelming him, and it was so easy for him to open his heart in this process, and the energy and everything came so fast, to the point that when we left for the day, he was like, "Hey, Megan, I kind of think there's something wrong, like, with my heart. Like, I'm wondering if I should go to medical, because I've never felt this feeling before, and I'm just not really sure what's happening," and was a little bit concerned. And it was, like, so precious, because I was like, oh, like, for the first time he had actually fully opened his heart and felt that. And it was so different from the usual that he actually was concerned, like, am I having a heart attack? And of course he was totally fine, and he was great. And he felt great after that for the next few days too, as we did more heart opening, and then started to recognize this feeling. This was so eye-opening to me, right? That we live in a world where we are so closed off, and we're not taught to do this kind of thing, that to the point that he actually thought maybe he was having a heart attack because of it. Crazy. So another thing is, during the event, what we did, what you call mind movies. So there's a website, you can create your own mind movie, and it's super cool. You can go do it, and you will just basically pull in all these images of things that you want to happen, all these images of your life that represent that identity and that amazing feeling, and then you put it to music, so your favorite music, right? So you're anchoring in that sound, and you're getting into that state. And we watched them over and over, and we did a meditative process, and while watching them, so it was super, super cool and powerful. And I realized, so this is just, like a year and a half ago, I went back and watched my mind movie recently, and I was like, holy shit, like, I actually have manifested almost everything in there. And some of these were really, really big things. Like, someday I wanted to have a lake house, and I wasn't actively looking for one, and I wasn't, like, going on ads. I wasn't wanting to, I wanted one eventually. And that summer, so a few months later, there was one that came up for sale right next to where my dad and his girlfriend's property is, like, this perfect, exactly, it just fell in our lap, and we bought it. And there were a few really, really big things in there that I realized already had. So the power of actually placing what you want in your future, in this state, that you're in the meditative state, and you're just literally drawing it in. You're putting it in, and you're dropping it. And it was so cool to look back and see that. And of course, now we use this kind of thing. We use this process in our groups, and we've had people do the exact same thing and draw all these amazing things in that they just didn't know how was going to happen. They're like, you do not have to know how it's going to happen. We're still following this process, and that's the amazingness. So leaving the Dr. Joe Dispenza event, what I realized was I felt so good. So by the end, got to the point where you're sitting eyes closed and you're just feeling complete connection to divine is like all I can describe it as. I don't even really know, other than it felt so good. It felt like oneness, wholeness. It just felt like you're there. I just wanted to stay there. And you start to realize, I did this and got here by closing my eyes, right? And I was like, this is interesting, because this feeling that I was going for, and really this is the feeling I had been going for anytime I did anything, anytime I was helping others, anytime I was trying to grow a business and like have kids and get love from my family. Like, I'm going for this feeling that I thought I needed to do things to get to, right? Like, well, once I'm successful, I will have that feeling. And then meanwhile, I'm learning, all I have to do is legit close my eyes. Of course, that's not all. There's a huge process of surrender and following the instructions and being there and showing up. And your brain doesn't always make it that easy. You can fight with it. You can fight with it for hours. Although after a while, you're like, oh, okay, I got this. And it feels good and you're there. And for me, when I left there, I was like, it's an interesting back and forth for me. I have to balance this, because I was a little bit like, wait, why would I even work? I was like, and for a week, maybe even 2 weeks, I literally just went to the beach, did the walking meditation. It's another thing we did was the walking meditation, which was so cool. And I just kept, I got up every day at 4 a.m. for the next 2 months. I kept doing the pineal gland meditation. Like, I was hooked and I was in it, and stuff just started to flow to me. Clients came out of nowhere. Stuff just started to happen that I'd been wanting to happen for a long time. And so I had this thought of like, wait, why do I do anything? And that's the trick right there, though. This is the balance for me between the two. Because I personally don't believe that I would be fulfilled to meditate for the rest of my life, like in a cave. I love humans. Actually, my purpose in human design is through transformation and helping others transform. So I love and need that interaction with people. I love to learn. I love to grow. But there's this balance, though, of a reminder that I can go internal at any point. And for my husband, too. So we now both have this as a tool at any moment. We can go to that state when we need to. We don't need others and outside and success in the form of money or programs or whatever it is to get to that feeling. But at the same time, balancing that with, because when I go to, for example, the Tony Robbins event or the NLP training that I'll be sharing about soon, and the ones that we do, by the end of that training, I am like, all hyped up, like, let's do this, let's help everybody in the world. I'm like sending stuff out, I'm creating content, I'm in it, like I feel great. And then when I go to the meditation events, I'm like, I really could just close my eyes and be oneness and feel this. And so I don't think either is good or bad or better or worse. I just think for me, it's a perfect balance of the two. I have been able to integrate them both and use them both in a way that I know I can get there, and also know that I will continue to operate in the world as a human and not just stop and close my eyes forever. The other thing this event did was totally blew out my model of the world about healing and people's ability to heal themselves or heal quickly. So their old belief I had was that, like healing, it takes a certain amount of time, right? And I've said that before, right? Like a certain amount of time to do lots of things. And, if your adrenals have been struggling for 10 years, it's going to take 10 months. It's always been what I've been told. And at the same time, I saw people, if you've heard about this from his events, that are actually getting up out of wheelchairs and walking. And like, you see this with your eyes. You see this in real time. And I have a good friend who went to an event with cancer, which is now completely gone. And this was just happening around you to the point that you're just accepting miracles and the superhuman ability that we have, and the power of the connection from one human to another, and what that energy is. And you don't have to even know what's behind it to know that it's happening, because you are seeing it. So after that
my level of how quickly I can change, how quickly my body can change had shifted dramatically. And my husband and I had witnessed that together. So we now together are in a place of, well, okay, what do we want together as a couple? What do we want for our bodies? How are we going to prioritize this practice to keep going? And how are we going to maintain this connection? Because now we've felt it. We know it's possible. We've seen it in others, and now we can use this. It was such a cool event, and Dr. Joe is such a cool guy. I know early on when I was saying I was going to go to a Dr. Joe event, somebody said, oh, he's a cult. Dr. Joe is a cult, and I don't know if that's a cult, like of opening your heart and oneness, like I'm in. I'm just kidding. I don't actually believe it's a cult. I just believe, and I say that because I do have someone, a coach that I work with who used to do cult interventions, and there are some very specific guidelines where the person in charge is taking away power, and this is not, in my opinion, at all what's happening, because you are gaining access directly to your power and to the divine, and in a way that is then carrying on to how can you help others. I mean, it is such a loving community and compassionate community, and a place where there are people who volunteer every single day. I was doing it for a while, Coherence Healings, where they'll volunteer every single day for free. They get on a group. They have the pictures of everyone who has asked for healing and asked for help, and they will do an energy coherence healing, this whole group, because the idea is we're sending that energy as a group. It's very, very powerful, especially like the more people, the better. So there are people who are dedicating themselves to just do this free work and just help others. So to watch the power in that community has been super cool. And I just love that he combines the science, and I understand so much more about the body after that, and the brain and our habits and why we do what we do. And once we know why we do what we do, it makes it so much easier to change them if that's what we want. Okay, so I hope my insights from the Dr. Joe event provide some spark for you. If you have never checked out his work, definitely check out his work. He has a very cool story about how he first, when he got hit by a bike, he got hit by a car on his bike. Yeah, that's even worse. And had a major spinal injury, and how he put it all back together in his mind. And it's just such a cool story. So check it out, because I feel the more we listen to, and actually that's a great point. The people who I met at the event, because some of them have been to 10 events, right? The people that I met at the event who had been there a long time, and a lot of them that were still coming around, they had been there a long time because they had had a radical shift in their health early on. I mean, really, you could call it a miracle healing. I don't know what you want to call it, but they had something happen out of nowhere, essentially, really fast. And when I started to talk to the people that had done that and just hear their stories, there was a common thread in their story. And this was the common thread. The common thread was that they came to a live event, practiced the daily meditation for, at least 6 months. And they all said that they had watched probably every single testimonial ever put out. From this specifically, it was Dr. Joe. And I thought that was so interesting, right? Because when you're in a room full of people, and so this just happened actually at our NLP event, is there were 3 people there with Raynaud's, and Dr. Alex has essentially, she's like now able to like hold cups and stuff when she used to not be able to because it was so painful for her fingers. So now she can like have an iced coffee where she couldn't before. And so because Alex was able to share her story, we had 2 other people who since the training are like, yeah, I don't experience Raynaud's anymore, because the brain and the power of hearing what other people are capable of, our brain's like, oh, okay, there's a new possibility. And as the brain accepts this new identity and this new possibility, there's a much higher chance that now your body is going to, it wants to get you back to homeostasis. And it now is going to work on the things to get there. And then maybe you also are approaching life differently because you no longer have the belief that you have to have this thing. And maybe now your environment's changing and you're telling the people around you that you're different. So super cool. Same thing happens at Dr. Joe events where, one person is like, I healed my Hashimoto's. And then another's like, well, I have that. And that person looks like a regular person. And I kind of look like them. And they just did the thing. So watching testimonials. So there's something you want in your life. Find and listen to other people who have done it. And listen to their story and pull out, like, what were their strategies? What were the commonalities? Like, what were they all doing? And that's why I asked as many people, I'm like, what did they do? And they had this commonality. They stuck with it. They didn't, Dr. Show says, like, people will come up, they'll be like, I tried that meditation thing, and he's like, how many years did it take you to develop this problem that you have right now, right? Like 20 years of potentially like abusing your body and or just time and like environmental whatever. And then now you're really expecting in like 5 days of meditation for that to shift, right? Because it can be quick, and there's also the continuous practice for some. It depends on like how deep you get into that state and all the other factors. So it's a really good reminder that this, whatever it is that you're going towards, is the consistency of going towards it. It's finding lots of examples that others have done it so your brain can accept it's a possibility, and just always, and for me, immersing myself in that in-person event where you get to completely submerge yourself, totally immerse, and be out of your old environment. That is where I see people change super, super rapidly. Okay, cool. Well, I hope you have a fabulous day. If you're liking this series, please let me know. Send me an email, support@zestyginger.com. Share on the gram. Let us know in any way. We'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear what else you want to hear about my journey or how it has impacted you. All right, hope you're having a fabulous week.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.